Did you want to make any further comments about some of the strategies that...
In terms of the strategies, I'd be keen. I think in terms of from an individual perspective, because I think it is very different sort of organisationally and then, your own personal navigation of it. But I think, I think it's important to take, very approaches to managing your own mental well-being that emphasise your own agency as well. I think if you sort of, I'm not talking about, sort of self-blaming, but or sort of, victim blaming or anything like that. But I do think a turning point for me in my legal career was the point at which I sort of stopped and reminded myself of this is not mandatory. I chose this. I'm here because I choose to be here, and I'm here because I'm looking for these things and it's taking me in these directions. And actually, that just made me so much happier and I think healthier in relation to, I stepped out of saying, well, that's bad and that's bad and that's bad. It's like, yes, but you're here because you don't have to be here and you've chosen it and you stay here because of bang, bang, bang. And I think, just that sense of, sort of being empowering, I think is very important. I think also it's very easy for, for lawyers to think, you solve the problem by working harder or throwing more time at it. And, I'm sure we've all experienced it. The harder you work, the more work you get. There will, in any job that's worth doing, there will always be more work than you can actually solve. And, so it is very much about, managing your sustainability in relation to what can I do here? What can I do? What are the most important things to do? What's not going to be done? And then, being able to communicate clearly in relation to that. In terms of the resourcing that has been provided, this is what will be done. These things will not be done. Okay. And I think that sense of it's just such a natural thing to assume that, I can solve this if I just throw more hours at it. And that's a very slippery slope.
Yeah. So I've got a few strategies to add on to that. And I love the agency piece. Everyone always has a choice here. So you've chosen this profession, you've chosen to work for this organisation. A few practical strategies on my end that I'd like to share is, number one is to check in with yourself. No one's going to know what's happening up here unless you are vocal about that. But number one is to actually check in with yourself. And it could be something as simple as, when was the last time you actually left your desk for a break? Or when did you last have a glass of water? Or how many hours of sleep did you clock the night before? I think it's really important to be self-aware and to learn about your own body and actually how you're feeling. The second strategy I would say is to seek help. And I know that this sounds so simple, but so basic, but I have friends who don't see GPs, but that they're literally at their last straw and they really should be either seeing a doctor or seeking professional support, such as therapy. And I think that it's really important to know when you've exhausted all avenues. And I know that people often think that they're self-sufficient and they can handle things on their own, but being able and actually going out there and seeking for help is another tip. And the third is being able to identify ways in which you can rest as well as to recharge. I've often been told that the legal career, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And so you really need to pace yourself. And when you are caught up in the hours, working long hours, and you're on autopilot, it's very easy to forget what it is that actually helps you replenish your own tank. And so when you know what works, either going for a long walk at the end of your day or going to the gym, I would say it's important to stick with it and don't let anybody override that or cause you to feel like I need to negotiate or I need to, don't feel guilty for that, because you are entitled to rest and you do need to rest to be able to keep this career going for as long as you take it. So those are probably my strategies just to add on top of yours.
And building on that, I think, having sources of meaning and purpose outside of work, because, work, you're going to have those bad days at work. You're going to need the, sort of the ballast. You're going to need to have the, sort of the momentum of the things outside work that give you that meaning and purpose and carry you through.
Yeah.
And maybe to add to the first point you made, David, about, having agency and feeling empowered by this being your choice. I think almost not the flip side, but a mentor once said to me, you can get used to anything, but that doesn't mean it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. And I think this goes back to your point about checking in with yourself. So I presume a lot of the people on this would be, managing multiple responsibilities, whether that's as a carer or other types of responsibilities in addition to their professional roles. And it can become, it can necessarily become overwhelming. And so when that overwhelm happens, then that's a point at which to check in. Okay, this is not working. What do we do differently? And it may be something at the organizational level that you need to check in with, or it could be something in the private level, or whichever of those spaces where just adjustments need to be made because it's otherwise not sustainable. I think that's the first point. And then the other point about not simply throwing more hours at it or taking your allocated time and space to do something else. I think what's so important is when we do allow ourselves to do this, and you mentioned earlier that, it's a job of a lawyer to worry kind of thing. When we do take that time, there is absolutely no point in taking the time if I then spend the entire time worrying about the fact that I'm not working. And that destroys any benefit you get from that. And I think for me, that was one of the turning points because I do have, those dual responsibilities. And so I'd be on, with one or the other responsibility, and I'd always be thinking, but I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. And it hampered both sides. It hampered the enjoyment of being present with my kids, and it hampered, being focused at work. And so I think just accepting you're doing this now or you're doing that now, then you can actually reap the benefit and perform at a level you'd like. So I think those are two things. The third thing I would mention, and I guess it comes a bit to the meaning making outside of work. Going back to the science now, there is really, really strong, unequivocal evidence, and it doesn't matter what outcome you take, whether that's mental health, cardiovascular health, any type of physical health, or even mortality. What is a really, really strong predictor of that is how many social groupings you belong to. How many networks do you have? How many causes, groups, things do you feel close to? Are you embedded within, whether that's your choir, whether that's your church group, whether that's your sports club, whether that's your reading circle, whatever it may be, having those links and connections, they will be with you now whilst you're in the thick of it, but they'll be with you also beyond that. And I think those are really important.
I might need to go and join more clubs after this.
Yeah. Sign yourself up to it.
Walk out and join a choir.
Yeah, that's it.